So today we'll be talking about introduction to ethical hacking. We've talked about the GRC, we've talked about digital forensics, we've talked about SOC analysis. So now today we'll be talking about ethical hacking. All right. So what is ethical hacking? Ethical hacking, also known as penetration testing or white hat hacking, is a practice of intentionally probing systems, networks, or applications for security vulnerabilities with permission. Unlike malicious hackers who exploit weaknesses for personal gain, ethical hackers identify and report vulnerabilities so they can be fixed before being abused. So this is actually very straightforward. So as an ethical hacker, ethical hacking is just about trying to probe systems or networks or applications with permission. Once you are doing it without permission, then it is no longer ethical hacking. Then you will not be regarded as a malicious hacker. So ethical hacking is crucial in modern cybersecurity. With the increasing reliance on digital systems and the rise of cyber threats, organizations must proactively test and secure their systems. So as we did in the previous classes where I told you that one of the security best practices is to actually perform penetration tests on your network or your organization's network to see if it's actually vulnerable to any sort of attack. So penetration testing is very, very important. So we have key goals of ethical hacking. So we have discover security vulnerabilities. So one of the key goals of ethical hacking is to discover security vulnerabilities. That is, when you are being permitted to perform penetration tests on a particular website, network, or system, then you'll be able to discover vulnerabilities in their network to see if there's actually any vulnerable parts in the network or website. So we also have prevent data breaches and cyber attacks. Key goals of ethical hacking. So we have prevent data breaches and cyber attacks. So ethical hacking also helps to prevent data breaches and cyber attack because the moment you've been able to perform penetration tests and discover certain vulnerabilities, then those vulnerabilities can actually be fixed. Then we also have validate existing security controls. That is, it also helps to validate if the security controls that have been set are actually functioning or they're actually secure. Then comply with regulatory standards. So according to the GDPR and the HIPAA laws, it is mandatory that you actually perform penetration tests on your organization's network to see if you are actually vulnerable to any sort of attack. So we have type of hackers. So we have the white hats. Now the white hat hackers, these are ethical hackers who are employed to protect systems legally. So white hat hackers are the ethical hackers. They are the ones that get permissions or are given permissions to professionally attack a particular network or website. Then we have the black hat hackers. These are criminal hackers who break into systems to steal, damage, or disrupt. So these ones don't require permission. They just break into systems for their own criminal activities. So we have the gray hat hackers. So hackers who break into systems without permission but don't intend to harm. So these ones, they break into your systems without permission, but they don't intend to harm you, but still they do not require permission, which is also illegal. So we have script kiddies. Now, inexperienced individuals who use pre-built tools without deep understanding. So script kiddies are just like inexperienced individuals who probably download malicious scripts online and just make use of them or make use of tools without really having a deep understanding of what those tools actually do. Their own is just that once I use this tool, this thing happens. So those are called script kiddies. Then we have the activists. Now, these are hackers with political or ideology motives. That is, e.g., they deface websites. So activists are, I don't know if you guys were on this trend. There was a time this anonymous group was trending on Twitter one time like that. So those kind of groups whereby they just bring out probably a politician that is doing some sort of bad things, they will expose the politician and stuff like that. So people like that do it for hackers like that are known as activists, whereby they just try to expose bad government policies or political activities. Now we also have state-sponsored. Now hackers working for government espionage or sabotage. Now these kind of hackers are hackers that are employed by countries. For instance, now maybe the United States employs a particular hacker to help them perform, to help them hack a particular country, because it is actually being, let's say, being stipulated, or it's just like an ideology that in the nearest future, wars between worlds might actually come in form of cyber warfare. So when it comes in form of cyber warfare, this is where you begin to see state-sponsored hackers. You understand? So now if you just do hack Nigeria now, hack all these are your ways networking thing wey dey do. So we have ethical hacking versus
What did I
malicious.
do?
Don't worry, you did not do anything. So we have ethical hacking versus malicious hacking. So first we have permissions. So ethical hacking, they take permissions and clear consents before hacking into a particular system. While malicious hacking, they don't take permission. We have the intent. Ethical hacking is to discover and fix vulnerabilities, while malicious hacking to exploit and benefit from vulnerabilities. Then we have outcome. Now, in increased security. So after performing a penetration test, it helps the organization to increase security on the parts where they are vulnerable. Now, malicious hacking, we have data theft, system damage, or legal consequences. So malicious hacking is either they steal your data or they damage your system, which would actually have legal consequences. So we have legality, ethical hacking, fully legal, while malicious hacking, criminal and prosecutable. A lot of hackers have actually gone to jail because of malicious hacking, because if you don't know what you are doing. Then we have tools used, same tools as malicious hackers, same tools but used for more powerful purposes. Now, the bitter truth about hacking is that you actually, as an ethical hacker, you actually also need to know what the bad guys know. That is what the criminal hackers know, or the malicious hackers. We call them threat actors, or what the threat actors know, because what you are trying to do as an ethical hacker is to just put yourself in the position of a malicious hacker, of a threat actor, to hack a particular organization. So if you don't know what the malicious hackers know, you might not be able to easily discover the vulnerabilities that a malicious hacker might actually exploit. So we have phases of ethical hacking. That is the hacking methodology. So there's phases to ethical hacking, because you can't just say you just want to hack without going through some particular processes as an hacker. So the first phase is what we call reconnaissance. Now, reconnaissance is also known as information gathering. So this is a situation whereby you try to gather information on the host you want to try to
Tony,
attack.
please help me to zoom out a bit.
Ah, right. do that.
If you are using a phone, kindly zoom through your phone.
So can you see like this?
Yes, sir.
All right. So reconnaissance, just like I said, information gathering. So for instance, now if a thief now, or if an armed robber wants to steal from a bank or something, they would have to actually gather information on how the bank is being organized. For instance, now I don't know if some of you seen this movie Money Heist. So you see when they were trying to perform reconnaissance, that is, they were trying to understand the topology of the building, trying to understand the structural setup of the building. So same thing goes for hacking. You need to actually understand the network topology. For instance, if it is a network hacking, you need to understand the network topology. You need to understand a lot of things so that you gather the information you need to perform your penetration tests. So we have two types of reconnaissance. We have passive reconnaissance and active reconnaissance. So passive reconnaissance means using public sources like search engines, WHOIS, DNS lookup, and social media. So passive reconnaissance is like you just performing a reconnaissance, but the reconnaissance you are performing will not be detected by the person you are performing, or might not be detected by the person you are performing the reconnaissance on. Just like me searching through somebody's social media page. You know, if I'm going to your social media page, except if it's a social media page that tells you that I'm viewing your profile, you might not really know I'm doing that. Or probably I'm using an open source tool, just like the hosting tools we make use of. So you might not really know that I'm performing a reconnaissance on you. But active reconnaissance, most active reconnaissance, okay, we have interacting directly with the target system. Example, ping, port scanning. So we have tools like Google Docs, Maltego, Shodan, and we have Recon NG. So active reconnaissance, you are actually trying to check if the target is actually active. So there are some reconnaissance that when you're actually trying to test the host, if the setup of the host actually triggers alerts, they would actually know you are performing tests. For instance, now if you try to ping google.com for a long while, they might actually block that particular IP address that is pinging them, because there's something we call DOS attack. I think I once explained DOS attack, whereby you try and overload a server with so many SYN requests. So the way they actually do it is also through pinging, but it's a different kind of pinging, because what pinging does is that pinging is just like saying, I want to check if this particular server is responding or responsive, just like through the packet tracer when you try to ping a network or to see if the IP address is responding. That's the same ping. But there's now something we call H-ping. Now, this is a little bit advanced than normal pinging. So it will send H-ping, for instance, now normal ping can send a SYN request at the rate of probably 5 requests per second. For
Hello, sir. Hope
H-ping,
you are recording. No.
yeah, it's recording. Is it? Wait, let me see.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's recording. It's recording. So, uh, H-ping might be able to send about almost, if I'm not exaggerating, maybe about 10,000 requests per second. So you can imagine a site getting 10,000 requests per second. You should know what can happen to that kind of server. So things like that, different platforms actually have different setups. So when they see that they are getting too much requests from a particular IP, they might, especially Google, if you try it with Google, Google will block your IP. You might not be able to access them again with that particular IP address. You get. So that is active reconnaissance. So we have the second phase. we have scanning. Now, identify live systems, open ports, services, and vulnerabilities. So network scanning is just like you are scanning a particular network to identify some service or ports that are open that you can actually exploit. So some of the tools used, we have Nmap, we have Nessus, and we have OpenVAS, OpenVS, yeah. So number 3, we have gaining access. Now, the goal is to exploit vulnerabilities to gain unauthorized access. So you've performed reconnaissance, you've gathered your information you need to gather. Now the next stage, you scan that particular host or target to see if they are actually vulnerable parts that you can actually go through. Then the next one is gaining access. So this is when you not use any technique you decide to use. It could be SQL injection, we have buffer overflow, we have credential brute forcing. So there are different techniques you could actually use to gain access. We have cross-site scripting, different kind of techniques that you can use to gain access. So that is the third phase. Then we have tools like Metasploit, we have Hydra, we have SQL map. So number 4, we have maintaining access. Now the goal is simulate how a real attacker would maintain control. Involves installing backdoors, creating new users, or exploiting persistence mechanism. In ethical hacking, this phase is controlled and temporary. Now the maintaining access phase is this. I think this is the phase we call CC, command and control, whereby you've gained access into the system or the network. So you have to try to maintain access so that you can do all the things you want to do. For instance, creating user, changing permissions, installing backdoors. So what backdoors do is that when you install a backdoor, the backdoor helps you to be able to access that particular network again without going through all the other necessary stress you did just to get into that network. So that is what backdoor does. And most times backdoors are always hard to detect in a network. So if you don't perform threat hunting once in a while, you might not detect that there's a backdoor on your network that an hacker can actually pass through again. So tools like that, we have Netcat, we have Meterpreter. All right. So the next one, you have clearing tracks. Now the goal is simulate log cleaning behavior for attackers. Real attackers delete or modify logs to avoid detection. Ethical hackers may demonstrate this for training or red teaming, but always document actions. So the clearing tracks is a situation whereby the hacker tries to clear the tracks so that he or she would not be actually noticed, or when they are trying to investigate, they won't be able to realize that such happened. So that's what they mean by clearing tracks, because I told you once you log into a particular network, it actually keeps logs. When they use log tools, it keeps logs. So most times they try to delete logs, delete the executable file they used to get into your system, or the scripts, or the malware they used to get into your system. They try to delete it and try to clear their tracks. Then we have reporting. Now, I told you in cybersecurity, reporting cannot be overrated. It's every niche in cybersecurity, you must always know how to report. So provide a detailed technical and non-technical report of findings. Include vulnerabilities discovered, risk level, exploited vectors, screenshots, and recommendations. So after the slides, we would check on how we would do a small penetration test on a website and try to see how you can make that report. All right, so we have So we have common tools used in ethical hacking. So we have Nmap. Now, Nmap is used to scan networks and find open ports and services. We have Wireshark, captures and analyzes packets for network troubleshooting and analysis. So I think we made use of Wireshark. I think I've also shown you how Nmap works. So we have Metasploit. So this is a framework for developing and executing exploits. So framework, Metasploit is almost like the OWASP framework also, whereby you can do different testing without actually targeting a real world.
Mr. Anthony, you're muted though.
You're muted. You.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right, okay. So we also have Bob Suits, web vulnerability scanner and proxy tool for intercepting HTTP or HTTPS traffic. So Bob Suits is also one of the tools used. It is used to intercept traffic. So you can actually use it to intercept an HTTP or HTTPS traffic and make changes to it. So we also have John the Ripper. Now, John the Ripper is for password cracking. It's a password cracking tool for testing password strength. We have Hydra, fast and flexible brute force password cracking tool. We have Nikto. Now, scans web servers for known vulnerabilities. We also have SQL map, automated SQL injection, and database takeover. So legal and ethical considerations. So ethical hacking must always be legal, documented, and authorized. Unauthorized access, even for good intentions, is illegal. So ethical hacking must always be what? Must always be legal.
Go.
There are so many documentations in ethical hacking because any slight mistake could actually land you in jail. So they have to always be a very, very structured and well explained documentation and signatories and everything, because you cannot do ethical hacking without all this, because any small thing can actually land one in. Because if you are performing, even if you are performing ethical hacking and you discover a data and you leak the data, it could become trouble for you. They will not say they are the one that employed you because you are actually breaching their contract. So we have key principles. Now, always get written permission before starting, then work within the scope and contract boundaries. So you have to always work within the scope and contract boundary. That is, whatever the contract says, do not do more than that. Then we have maintain confidentiality for findings and user data. So you have to always maintain confidentiality in the sense that not everyone needs to have access to the information you are able to detect. Then we also have always follow responsible disclosure. Report vulnerabilities properly to stakeholders. So reporting too, because according to your contracts, you would actually have people you can report to and people you cannot report to. So it is always very important. Now, no relevant laws. So you should know the Nigerian cybercrime laws. You should also know the global laws when it comes to ethical hacking, so you don't put yourself in trouble. So we have ethical hacking certifications. Now, these certifications actually help to authenticate your skills as an ethical hacker. So we have the CH, that's certified ethical hacker. So we have the OSCP, we have the CompTIA Pen Test Plus, we have the EJPT, and we also have the CHFI. So these are different certifications that you can have or get as an ethical hacker to authenticate your skills as an ethical hacker. So, conclusion and further learning, ethical hacking is not just about breaking into systems, it's about securing them. As technology evolves, so do the threats. Ethical hackers are the frontline defenders of digital infrastructure. All right, so we'll be going into practice. So, the one of the first tools for performing reconnaissance, we have WIS. Now, WIS you can use to check. Let me try. So, WIS, let's say example.com. Now, this WIS gives you information about that particular domain name or that particular website. So as you can see, these are some of the information about the website. This is the creation date when it was created, and this is the expiration date, because you know website with HTTPS, they have certificates. So these certificates actually have expiration dates. Let me quickly show you something about that.
Yes.
So I just visited google.com, right? So if you want to check the certificates, you know, google.com is an HTTPS website whereby it is secured. So you go to this place, then you go to connection is secure, certificates valid. So this is the certificates. This is the encryption key, the public key that they are using to encrypt their data in transit or whenever you visit the website. That is why. So you see this certificate was issued on 2nd June 2025, then it expires on August 2025. So this is the secured certificate. This is the certificate to show that the site is actually secured. So you can see the algorithm they are using the SHA-256 fingerprint. That is what they are using. So this is the certificate here. Then this is the public key. You get that? All right. So let's go back to. All right. So let's go back here. So we performed WIS on example.com. So these are some of the information you would get. So another reconnaissance tool, we have NS lookup. NS lookup example.com. So what NS lookup does is it's to give you the IP, the public IP. As you can see, this is the public IPs of this particular domain. So now these IPs are what hackers can actually exploit. So after getting the public IP, they will now use, you can now use what do they call it again? You now use Nmap to check the ports that are actually open on this particular IP address. So there are different tools for performing reconnaissance. We also have a tool called sublister, whereby you can use it to check the subdomains of. So let me see if I have sublister to download it. I don't have this, I have to download. about this. Okay. Yes. So as you can see, it is searching. So now this sublister is going to give you the subdomains that are actually under particular. So as you can see, these are the starting with the domain name, which is GitHub. So these are the legit subdomains under github.com. You understand that? So we use NSLOOKUP to check for the IP address of this. So you can always ping this to see if the IP is responding. As you can see, it is responding to us. That means this particular IP address is active. So let me run my Metasploitable so that we can use the IP address of Metasploitable instead.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Anthony, the Metasploitable that you said we should download, it has a password, but you didn't give us the password.
It's written there.
Really?
You see it's written there.
Okay.
I will show you. You'll see the password now. So as you can see here, you see they told you log in with MSF admin. Then password through MSF admin.
Okay, okay,
Can you see it? Yeah,
okay.
correct. So you can see. So 192.168.183.129. All right. 192. 193.129. So let me use nmap to confirm. So as you can see on this, the IP address of Metasploitable, you can see it tells me that port 21 is open, 22 is open, which is SSH, 23 telnet, port 80 is also open. So these ports could actually be exploited if, as they are open, they don't have any filtering on the other end, then it can be exploited. So this is what they actually use nmap for, because when you are attacking a particular IP address, you actually need to add the ports to tell it that you want to go in through that particular port. All right. Okay, let's see. So what I just did was that I'm looking for a site that we can actually perform pen test on. So what I did was I put in the IP of my Metasploitable. So it will give me different. So let's look at this. So probably we can try using this. Let's try using this. As you can see, this stuff here shows you that this connection is not secure, which means it is what an HTTP site. So the tool we'll be using, ZAP Proxy. So once you just click on your ZAP Proxy, it comes pre-installed with your Kali. So let's wait for it to load.
I know.
This is the ZAP Proxy interface. So you come over here to automated scan, then you paste the IP address, the website's link you want to perform the pen test on. So then now click on attack. So it would give us let's go to alert. So it is still performing the pen test to see where it is actually vulnerable. So we come to alerts. Now you see
So
that
what's
the
the name of
alert
this site?
yeah,
What's the name of this app? What's the name of this app?
ZAP Proxy. So you see the alert it has generated for us. So when you click on it, the alert, you can come over here to check more about it. So now these are the vulnerabilities that are actually in this website. So now we found 11 alerts, which is 11 vulnerabilities. So now I'll now show you how you can report this kind of vulnerability or reports, how you can make reports. Come in.
So this ZAP Proxy, is it also on Kali too, or
Yeah, it comes
is it
pre-installed on
standard?
your Kali. It comes pre-installed on your Kali. So it's on your Kali. The first vulnerability, which is this remote code execution. So how you make your reports. So we start with the title. So we have vulnerability reports for the sites you are actually attacking. So let's say DVWA for DVWA. So link of website. So a link of the website and vulnerabilities. So the number of vulnerabilities we actually found, I think 11, right? 11 vulnerabilities found. Vulnerabilities found. So we start with the first one. We have name of vulnerability. So we have name of vulnerability. So let's go and check. We have the name of vulnerability, remote code. So remote code. So you copy this. Paste. So now this now. So we have where it's found. Where it is found will be the link of the site. So we have what it does. What it does is the description. That is, this vulnerability you found, what does it do? So you head over here. You head over here. So you see the description. So this description is what it actually does. Copy. And you paste. And now we have risk level. So now the risk level, you would be able to, after you go through the vulnerability, you read through the vulnerability, you'll be able to decipher if it is low, medium, or high. So for this one, now let's set it is high. So the risk level is high. So we have the solution. So the solution, you go back here. Right here. As you can see here, you have your solution. You have your solution, you copy. Paste. Then the next thing will be a screenshot of this particular page. A screenshot of this page. Let me take a screenshot. I'm just trying to input the screenshot here. So this is, so the next one, so you do number 2, which is the next vulnerability. So you understand till you finish the 11 vulnerabilities. So this is how you can report, and you can now do all the necessary. So this is how you can report vulnerabilities found in a website. Do you understand? So there are
Yes.
different penetration tests on websites. So this is actually one of the penetration tests you can perform on the website. Other penetration tests includes SQL injection. So that one is actually an advanced web penetration testing. We have SQL injection, we have cross-site scripting. So those are the ones you can actually use to see if to extract data from a website or to steal information from a website. So all these ones too actually explains to know if the site is also vulnerable to those kind of attacks. So if we go through some of the vulnerabilities that are still listed here. So you can see content security policy. So different vulnerabilities, no directory browsing. If you come here, it will explain it will give you a description. Do you understand it? So this is a
Yes.
simple penetration test on